friends.
What's up?
Welcome to Thursday at the Masters.
Right?
Game Plans, episode 6.
I got a notification. Ludwig's teeing off right now.
Is that who you're picking to win?
Well, I've got my tradition, unlike any other, which is putting a bet on Brooks Koepka every year to win, whether he does or not. So that's my favorite.
Same.
But otherwise, Ludwig's is a great pick.
Same. I put a little sprinkle on Scotty, Rory, Bryson.
I should have played it on the TV in the background. Just have to get on a sweet shot.
I'm excited, man. It should be a good weekend. Excited to watch it a little bit.
For sure. That'll be real good.
All right. Well, let's get into episode 6. We're talking about processes, routine, and automation. We're going to go through some of our the different things we're using, tools that we're using, some concepts that make our lives easier and how we organize our business. So let's start off with talking about our processes. I think we talked a little bit about the processes that we go through on a daily basis and over the course of the life of a client to help to give them top-notch service, be really consistent, and make our lives easier. Keep everything really organized. So I'll kick it to you first. Tell me a little bit about your client intake, and then maybe talk a little bit about that, and then also how you might manage working with realtors and keeping that process organized.
Sure. I think process is the biggest thing with anything, with all of this is your process establishes a sense of consistency in what you do, where you're just not shooting from the hip every day. I really, truly believe if you're going to scale your business in any kind of way, you've got to have all of your processes dialed in. And I've got, for me, everything's a process in terms of, how I outline my week starting on Sunday night to, you mentioned onboarding a client, to communication throughout the process of a loan, So for me, your brain is not really designed to hold and retain information. It's meant to process things, right? So for me, it's like whenever someone works with me, I want it to be seamless, be consistent every single time, where, you and I have done enough transactions together at this point. Like, you could probably tell a client, like, hey, I'm going to refer you to Steve. I'm going to make an intro with an email. And this is exactly how it's going to go. You're going to get this email, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, all from start to finish, which is how, it should be. And that's how anybody can scale. Otherwise, and we talked about this the other day when we were kind of discussing the pod initially, is so many people don't have any type of process in place for anything. And then there's this, somewhat of like a badge of honor, like, oh, I'm so busy, or I have this, and this going on. And it's really like, you have no guardrails in place to keep things on the tracks. But I digress.
We call it on accident realtors.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's happening at on accident. You're just flying by the seat of your pants.
I just wrote this quote today for a piece of content this morning. Do not conflate being busy with being productive. Hamsters run really hard on a wheel. It's easy to just say, like, well, I've got all these things going on, but like, what are you really getting accomplished? For me, I like to lay out my whole week. It starts on Sunday night. So on Sunday night, and this is something I've gotten very dialed in with in the last 6 months, I'm very religious with a Sunday night ritual. I sit down, I review last week, preview the coming week, what went well, what didn't go well, what goals that I set the following week that I didn't hit on. Maybe this particular week I was heavy on all my sales activities on the phone, but I was light getting face-to-face with people. So it's like, okay, well, this week I need to change that. And I think that sets me up for success just to start the week altogether, right? I go into Monday with juice because I know exactly what the game plan is. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then from there, it's just sticking to it and executing.
I,
Um,
I think the review piece is underrated in that, because it creates an opportunity to reflect on areas of improvement,
100%.
and that's something that is going to keep you dialed in on exactly how you're going to get better as you go about the following week.
100%. And with that, like I track everything. I have a sales activity tracker spreadsheet. I fill out how many posts I made on social media, how many outbound calls I made, how many phone conversations I have, how many appointments I had, how many leads I got. So like there's never, a point where I can't review my week and know exactly what happened. Um, you know, I know where my numbers, like if you're not managing your stats and your activity, it's hard to put a gauge on what in your business needs attention. Um, you know, hey, my lead flow is light. Okay, well, let's look. How many people did you call last week? I bet if you pulled 100, real estate professionals, whether realtors, lenders, whatever, a few would be able to tell you within a few minutes of how many, outbound sales type of attempts that they made. Most don't because they don't look at it. And then when it comes time to like, oh, my business isn't doing well, it's like, okay, well, where are you struggling? And it's like, you really don't know. Well, I'm not getting leads. Well, that's not the root cause. The root cause is your activity. The lead flow is the symptom, right? And you're trying to treat
That's right.
the symptom instead of the problem. So, I think it's very important to do that. And it's very important to set specific targets, right? So when I'm planning Sunday, I set very specific targets. So it sets everything up for the week, for the processes and the routines to kind of flow together. So that's where the process starts, is
Where do
on
you
Sunday.
where do you track this, or how do you you know do you use something to do that review
The Sunday night
preview? And
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a remarkable tab that I keep everything in. So I keep everything in here. Each week I create a new sheet. So I've got the whole week. I can scroll and then I separate it by day, and I can see. I'm looking at it right now. Um, like yesterday, I've got marked down how many outbounds I made, how many people I talked to, how many posts I engaged with on social media, how many voice notes I sent to people. And at the top of this sheet is where I write my intention for the week. And usually when I get to the office, the first thing I do when I sit down, I know we're kind of intermixing routine and processes here, but I think they kind of work together, right?
Mhm.
Before I start my day, the first thing I do every morning, before I even pop open and look at an email when I sit at my desk, is I look at my intentions for the week, and I just take a brief second to look at them again. I wrote them Sunday. I look at them Monday, look at it Tuesday, look at it Wednesday. And I'm like, okay, well, my goal this week was to, get X amount of leads. Okay. Where am I at so far this week? Okay. Well, I'm a couple light. I've got to keep that in mind when I'm making outbounding calls. Where are my opportunities to ask for business, to ask for referrals, whatever it might be. But if you don't look at it every morning, you don't know. And then it hits Friday, you're like, I didn't get any deals this week. You know what I mean? And well,
Right.
Friday's too late. Game's over now. It's already rolling forward. So that I just keep it here. And usually on Sunday night, when I'm outlining my week to come, I'm pulling up that prior week sheet, and then I'll have my laptop and I'm looking at my sales activity tracker spreadsheet, and I'm just kind of going through and I'm you know mixing and matching things and saying, okay, well, I had a light call week this week. Oh, I had a lot of face to face this week, because it's hard to balance the two. It's hard to be doing the outbounding sales activities and meeting people face to face for only so
Mhm.
many hours in a day. So for me, it's like, sometimes week to week, those are going to kind of teeter totter
Mhm.
back and forth. But at the end of the day, as long as you're consistently making the inputs, the outcomes will result. And that's just fact. Um, and this is a way to hold myself accountable as well. If I'm, it's something that, I'm involved in coaching, and my sales activity tracker is something that we upload every week to coaching. So there's accountability there. So if you don't have a coach, you've got to at least find some sense of accountability, because you'll always give yourself an out as to not do something. Like, oh, you know what? I was busy this week. I didn't track this. I didn't write this down. But you need somebody in your ear, even if it's, me just as your friend, like, hey, dude, that's not good enough. Like, you got to write this stuff down.
Right. Right.
You need somebody at least help hold you accountable. But from there, I, theme all my days, but process wise, in terms of the inter workings of, how we operate, or how I operate on a day to day, is, laid out in my calendar, theme all my days, Monday through Friday. Mondays are a certain day. Tuesdays, I'm doing a certain thing. Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. And I keep those, we call them power hours, but those outbounding time blocks, I hold those sacred. I'm not scheduling meetings during those times. I'm not answering emails during those times. Those, those 2-3 hours every day is my time for sales activity. No matter what you do, if you can at least do that every week, you're going to end up in a decent spot. What tends to happen is, because those activities aren't the sexy ones, right? Whenever something comes up, that's the first one you kick off the calendar. God, I'm busy. You know what? I'm just gonna move this outbound block. I don't have time for that today. That's how you get this in your results. Anyway, for me, process wise, it starts from the time a lead comes in all the way through to what we call lead to legacy, right? It's the time a lead comes into their client for life.
Like that. Yeah.
So it's, the same introduction email goes out to them with the realtor copied, with the same onboarding process in terms of scheduling a call. It's very based around flow, right? You don't just walk into the doctor's office and say, hey, I'm here to see the doctor, right? We're going to schedule a time. We're going to have you fill out some paperwork, some intake paperwork, just the same as a doctor. Everybody in real estate wants to get paid like a physician. You got to kind of run your business like one. It's true.
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to get paid like a physician, you need to run your business like one. So you send a lead over. Obviously there's extenuating circumstances where things are a rush, but I think many people in our industry use that as a crutch, like everything's a rush. And if everything's a rush, then that's not true. You're just making it that. You're being inefficient with your processes and your routines, and it's creating a rush, right? So again, same email goes out, then we schedule the call. We have that consult call. Once that's done, there's a specific email recap that goes out to the buyer, the buyer's agent, and we lay it all out, very detailed. Here's your scenario. Process in place of how we're following up with pre-approvals and what days we're following up with them on throughout the week. Then at the time they go in contract, they're getting a welcome email. We're setting up a call to go through all the details of their financing. Tuesday update calls, the entire process. Obviously, I'm kind of paring all this down. And then we've got post-close call every Thursday's database call day, doing all the post-close calls, doing annual review calls. And then that process of lead to legacy goes onboarding, pre-approval, in contract rate lock, every Tuesday update, post-close call, annual review call. And then we've got other touch points in place. And it's just routine where it's like, you can't miss. Oh, it's Thursday. It's database day. I'm doing post-close calls. I'm doing annual review calls. I'm doing all my client outbounding. Oh, it's Wednesday. That's my big day for outbounding to real estate agents. So if you get a call from me Wednesday, pick it up. I got good stuff to say.
Sometimes,
Wednesday,
buddy. Sometimes.
right. Well, no. And Wednesday, there's a reason for it. That's why Wednesday I send my newsletter Wednesday morning. So because there's usually stuff that I want to touch on there. I want to share with you. I'm not calling you just to call you because I got nothing better to do, right? I mean, we're all here to do a job and maximize our time and make money. And in my opinion, if your pros want to work with pros, I know how to service a professional. I just do. I know what it takes. I know what it takes for the client. I know what it takes to you to support your business. And I've just, my mindset's changed on that over the past couple of years. There's all this, call reluctancy and things like that. And it's like, look, if you don't work with me, that's fine. But this is what we do. This is our process. This is how we operate. I'll send you references. um, and but those processes have to be in place, or your consistency is not going to function.
Well, you want something that can go help your business go like this versus go.
It's not a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, and if you don't put those processes in place, you're just going to flounder. You're just going to stay status quo. You're not going to be able to scale your business and grow. I mean, it's crucial.
How many times you heard somebody say, "Oh man, it's 1 o'clock. I feel like I've got nothing accomplished today."
It's crazy,
Every
of
day I
course.
hear people say that, right? Like I'm doing all these
Yeah.
outbound calls, and usually the main question I ask somebody is like, "Hey, well, what do you like? What's the couple biggest things you're struggling with right now?" Undoubtedly, number one is usually always, I need more leads, always. And then number two, 90% of the time is some sort of something that ties into time management, or like dealing with a problem, or something that kind of fits in that box. Um, and most of it's just a lack of process, a lack of structure. There's just no structure in place, and you just get blown around by the wind, whichever you know way it goes. My outlook with the Sunday night ritual is like, look, once Monday hits, the ball's tipped off, the game's off and running. And if you're trying to figure it out in the meantime, by the time you hit Wednesday, you're getting blown out at halftime, and you're trying to figure out a way to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And that's just a terrible way to do business. And that's why people get run down, worn out, and stressed, because they're just, they're the tail's wagging the dog. Um,
So let me tell you a little bit about my journey and just uh, where I'm at in with regard to processes and really it started from me early on in the business. I was working for Jeff and Marilyn, working as an assistant, realtor assistant for those two, and there was a level of having to fly by the seat of your pants to a degree because it was in the moment. Hey, I need you to be somewhere, or I need you to go do this showing because I'm running behind on my schedule, or this came up. I need you to schedule these appointments or talk to this client, write this up for me, and so much of that came in the moment, or with short notice
mhm.
that it definitely was something that didn't allow me to be as systematic as I've become over time. And so, I didn't recognize the value of that. I didn't have kids at the time. There wasn't as much value put on my spare time as I do now as well. Because to me, now, uh, the most valuable piece of my life is my time. And the money is just steadily coming, and everything is great in that regard. It's really about how can I capture time that I can have with my kids, that I can build my business, that I can connect with more people, work on scaling, and doing more of the things that I want to do, because I have plenty of ideas and plenty of things that I want to work on to develop my business. But the crucial fuel to that is my time, right? And so, over the course of the last 11 years, say 2020, when I stopped working for Jeff and Marilyn as their assistant and started just working on as an agent full time. I would say before that, in almost every case, it was I didn't even have anything in a calendar. I had a calendar. I didn't really utilize it. I would just remember what I had to do that day in my head,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But I was able to do it. I was able to manage it. Everything worked out great. There's a few things randomly I'd put on my calendar if they were well in advance, so that would remind me.
Right.
But overall, it was just, uh, you know, jump here, jump there, do whatever I had to do that day. I knew what I had to do. Now, obviously, I'm much busier. I have way more business on my own as an agent, and so and then two kids with one on the way. So just having the structure and systems in place to make my life easier and recapture more of my time is just extraordinarily important to me now.
It's huge
And
for everyone.
I'm just diving deeper and deeper into that, um, uh, and working. One of the pieces of advice that I heard maybe a year or two ago, is you need to be working equally on your business as in your business, 50-50. And I know most agents are working
In
80-20, 90-10, 100% just in their business, waiting for the next deal to come, waiting for um, someone to teach them how to do X, Y, or Z, to
You're not
grow their
running you're not
business.
running a business.
Right, right, and so um, now I structure my business so that I am working 50% of the time, no matter what, on how I'm building out my business, how I'm making it better, how I'm growing it,
Yep.
adding more pieces to the service, and consistency of service, to my business, and keeping myself more organized, and consistent so I can recapture more of that time, and that time ultimately gives me more time with my family, whatever. So
Yeah, I
um,
wrote down consistency and predictability when I was taking notes, and I feel like that's so lost, right? Like the more consistent and predictable process you can give to a client, to an industry partner, that's one of the most important pieces, because you hear it all the time. People complain about surprises, or this happened, or somebody didn't communicate this or that. When you've got systems and process, everything goes consistently, and the process you have is very predictable. Everybody knows what's going to happen when, and it's much more like there's enough that comes up over the course of a transaction to throw, sticks in the spokes enough, right? Like you don't need to be unpredictable, add any unpredictability to it just because you're flying by the seat of your pants. I mean, everything. I just had a deal. We had the seller die like 10 days before closing. So like literally anything can happen, right?
anything can
Um,
happen.
anything can happen, but if you're not structured and you don't have those processes in place, there's just no consistency. And not only is it stressful for you as a professional, you're going to get worn out, burned out, you're putting in more hours, but it's also a terrible experience for your clients when you're running around with your head on fire. It's kind of like you hear people say, like your animals feed off your energy, right? Your
Mhm.
clients, it works the same way with your clients. Like if you're kind of spastic and stressed out and high stress, that they're going to sense that, where everything's urgent, urgent, urgent. This is urgent. That's urgent. Um, it's stressful enough for these people as it is, because they don't do this every day like we do, right?
I think,
It's a
and
huge deal.
honestly, yeah, honestly, I think if you miss one or two little things in your process, sometimes that can really, just one or two small little things. I think that small stuff like that can rub clients the wrong way or ruin the experience for someone. And
You have to put
so,
yourself in their shoes.
yeah, but I think giving yourself an opportunity to be consistent, and have those things in place is something that uh, will ultimately make every experience quality versus, I got too busy that day and I didn't have a chance to follow up with the client on X. If I screw that up, that's something that is going to absolutely uh, hurt
Their
that
experience.
experience. Yeah, and I may get through
Market's
that
too competitive.
Yeah, I may get through that transaction, but I could lose X
Next
number
one.
of X number of referrals, a repeat client, whatever, from those
100%.
people, versus just nailing it every time and building and building and building a tree of clients that refer me great business and keep my business growing. So,
Think about this, like your processes are meant to simplify things for you as well. I remember, I've been doing these status update calls for like years now, right?
right,
And I'll inevitably all the time talk to a listing agent that I haven't worked with before, and they're like, "Oh, this is great that you call every week, like right around the
that's
same
how you
time you."
found me. That's how you
Yeah,
found me, right?
right around the same time you call me every week. And they're like, I'm like, it's so much easier for me to just time block 2 hours on a Tuesday, call everybody. Do you know how many calls that cuts out that I don't get from others the rest of the week, that's pulling me away from stuff that I want to be working on? So these processes help circumvent all of these fires that pop up all the time, where so and so is calling you for this, so and so is calling you for that. Half the time people
Yeah.
just don't call me because they're like, I'm going to hear from Steve on Tuesday, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, would you rather play whack-a-mole all week, or do you want to just have it all scheduled and get it all done in an orderly fashion?
I will call people now that I do lots of deals with. They'll answer and they'll be like, "Oh, it's Tuesday." Like like that's how that's what consistency does. Like, "Oh, it's Steve. It's Tuesday, of course." Um, but that consistency, and that applies to both of us, just because of us being on different sides of the transaction a little bit differently. But just think of all of the, like, as an agent out there, if you're watching this, like the the headaches that you can circumvent, of just, you set a day once a week, whatever deals you have in contract, like, hey, Brooks, just wanted to call you, give you an update. Here's where we're at on this, here's where we're at on that. I know Steve's giving you an update, yada yada. Any questions you have for me?
Hmm.
You give them the chance to ask you anything.
Hmm.
And then I always say, are you sure? That's a very important part, because most time people are embarrassed to ask you things, right? They don't want to sound like they don't know what's going on. So, but I'll get to the end of these Tuesday update calls with the clients. I'll be like, hey, here's where we are on XYZ, yada yada yada. Any questions on anything? No, no, not really. I'm like, are you sure? And I would say 50% of the time they're usually like, well, actually, I've got one question. And generally it's something relatively important, but they just feel like they don't want to sound ignorant in any type of question. But when the transaction's all said and done, the name of the game is growing your business, growing your database, and getting more client referrals. They remember that. That's a
Hmm.
really big thing to just say, "Are you sure?" Because when it's done, they're gonna remember that and be like, you know what, Steve always, asked me if I had questions. He made sure all of them were answered. You know, that is a big deal, and people undersell that. But if you could just take 2 hours a week and just block that time to call your database, you're going to circumvent um, so many questions. I time block everything, and I guess that kind of leads into like some routines and like these themed days. And you know, people some people put a calendar together, but then don't hold themselves to it. That's number one. So if you make a calendar, you got to follow it, right? If you
Hmm.
fill out your calendar, if it's, you've got such and such time block for 10 o'clock at 10 o'clock, like that's what you've got to do. You've got to close out your email. You've got to close out your Facebook and your Instagram. And you may have to turn the notifications off on this, so you're not getting distracted. And what you'll find is, if you're that disciplined in that 2 hour time block, you will be surprised at what you can squeeze out of a 2 hour period if you have no distractions.
Right.
Most of us time block 2 hours, but in that 2 hours we're like, oh, so and so, what they send me on Instagram? Oh, that's cool, that's funny, huh? Let me send that to 5 people. Oh, what's over here? And then by the time like that 2 hours turned into 45 minutes actually, and you're like, man, I didn't really get anything accomplished. Because I know when I've got in the last year when I've gotten very serious about this, like the first few times where I'm just like, all right, closing everything out, it's call time. I'm not doing anything else. Make my list, who I'm going to call. I get an hour in and I'm like, I've already called everybody I wrote down. Like, you know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah, yeah.
I still got an hour left. Like, what? Okay, now I got to fill up the other hour.
I want to show you
But
this real quick.
sure, go for it.
So one of the things that I've started working on, and I'll show a little bit of the other piece of it too later, is this company called Notion. And Notion has, like, I came across it as like advanced note taking, and as I learned more about it, what it is it's a system that can keep you extraordinarily organized. And right now I'm in Notion Calendar. They have a Notion Mail now, and then their main product, which is the Notion itself, which is all the systems, the databases, and all the organization tools that I'm working on. I started this at the beginning of 2025, right around February, and I've just spent most of my evenings working on it. But as we get into Notion Calendar, one of the most amazing things. So I have my schedule laid out. I don't time block like Steve does. Steve, I know you do so much time blocking. That's something that, to a degree, um,
I
I
tell
need to
people
get
my
better.
calendar looks like a kid with Tourette's threw up on it with crayons. Like
I
I've
need to
got
work on it
everything.
to
I live on that thing, man.
I need to work on it a little bit better, but I also have to have open times where I can jump out and
Oh, sure.
do a showing or whatever. But one of the things that I love about Notion Calendar is I can create, like, there's Calendly is another example of this. There's a lot of
That's what I
different
use.
cool. Google has a built-in into Google Business as well. But the reason why I like Notion Calendar is you can create these recurring links to your calendar where you can block off or send a link to somebody, text, email, whatever. If they want to set up a buyer consultation, if they want to set up a uh, listing appointment, if they want to set up a Zoom call or out of town call, um, I can create those recurring things and just send it as a link. Just hit one click, copy it. You see it's blocked off on these little
Yep.
areas of my calendar where I'm
Perfect.
available. It will have rules in place that won't do it 30 minutes before another thing, and won't
Sure.
do it 30 minutes after. And then it sends them a really pretty thing that says, "Hey, I'm available these days. Pick a day and time." But also, I can create a one-off thing where I can just highlight like this. Okay, I'm available Tuesday, and I'm available here on Wednesday, and I'm available here on Friday. And I can name it Meet with Brooks or any other thing. I can put a bunch of rules in place that has the times. I can set a location, or
Sure.
I can hit phone call, whatever. I hit create, and I can just text, email, phone call that too for like a one-off thing, like, "Hey, do you want
Sure.
to meet for coffee
Yep.
and talk about whatever?" Um, and it's just an amazing way for me to uh, avoid back and forth with someone, um,
Yep.
and make it again like a doctor's appointment. Hey, go in and schedule your doctor. Everybody hates calling your doctor and waiting for the receptionist
Yep.
to figure out a calendar. You wait on hold. You're
Yeah.
talking to a receptionist. You're like, "Oh God, how long am I going to be on hold for?" This it allows me to do a simpler thing, and just have you schedule it based on my availability, and control it a little bit of my time. Um, Obviously, I spend time picking up my kids a bunch and dropping them off at school, and want to have time for their events, whatever. The other thing that I would say is over the course of the last 3-4 years, every single thing goes in on a calendar. If it's picking up the kids, if it's dropping off the kids, if it's um, any personal thing I have to do, if it's a haircut or all those little things,
Sure.
everything hits the calendar no matter what. So that there's no oh shoot, I forgot to do this, or I double booked here or whatever. And so that I don't set something up with a client and say, hey, sorry, I got to reschedule. I accidentally double
That's
booked.
one of the most unprofessional. That might be one of my biggest pet peeves on the
Yeah.
planet. Somebody who double books. Like, you never booked anything. You just overextended yourself and didn't organize. You'd look like a schmuck when you have to call somebody and tell or text somebody and be like, hey, I need to cancel. I double booked myself. It's like all of this kind of, like, to sum it all up, and wrap it up with a bow. There is such a low standard of professionalism in what we do in the industry that we're in. And people, yeah, there's not really a better way to say it. There's just a low standard of professionalism in terms of how people operate on a day-to-day basis. So that bar is so low. Like, what you were demonstrating and what I'm talking about with just general scheduling and time blocking and processes is just being a professional. Like,
Yeah, but they don't teach that in real
no,
estate. That's the craziest part to me is, they do not teach. They teach sales techniques. They teach.
don't even
Uh,
teach that very well.
no, 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 they don't. But they teach sales techniques and they teach things about, um, like there's so much about social media, and being a social media influence realtor or whatever. um,
Get me
those
started.
pieces become the hot topics, and no
Here's the
one.
bad part is most people aren't even going to post anything anyways. So
Right. So um I was to
if
that point I
every,
was
sorry,
looking at a realtor. I had been kind of monitoring for our team, and I would say we would want somebody that would be pretty consistent, and this person had posted like 3 times since September of last year. um and that's a red flag to me automatically. um you do an
that
amazing
was
job.
highlighted this week with all the tariff and rate movement, and like I call it people who show up when it's time for a transaction. Like, you
Mhm.
don't hear anything or see anything from anybody, and then all of a sudden something shifts in the market, and they've got everything to say now. Right? It's like, oh, I can maybe get a deal. I'm here. Don't be that person.
Right.
But when you've got, again, processes and systems in place, you can be consistent in your social media management and your day-to-day marketing. Um, and you're not running around like, oh, rates came down. Let me make a post about it. That it's very evident that when people do that, they're in it for them, what benefits them, not like, hey, let me show up every day for my clients in my online community to be a resource for them. Like, hey, here's what, like, I'm going to give you to help educate, empower, entertain you on a day-to-day basis. Like, if you go through my Instagram, I in the last year posted, a gazillion things. I don't think you'll find one video on there of me directly trying to sell something, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
like, it, let me
Education.
help educate. Let me help educate you. Here's this for free. Like, here's just information, like, to help you feel good, or educate you or make you feel more confident about a decision you're trying to make. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't know I could do
it's
that.
value. The word is value.
100%. And
Right.
to be of value, you actually have to be valuable, which leads into what you're about to show. Like, you've got to educate yourself. You have to be a source of value to people. You hear people, I hate the term value because people just throw it around like, I'm going to be of value to my partners. Like, what does that mean? Like, what value do you provide? Like, oh, we close really fast and we do a really good job. No, that's all bullshit. That's like kindergarten level stuff, right? Like, what actual value are you to someone else?
Right.
By definition, like what value do you provide? Doing a good job is like the entry level. That's. I hope you would do that, or you'll be out of the business. What education, what information are you able to provide to people, and how are you sharpening your skills to be of value? You have to be to someone else. You have to be of value yourself, and to do that, you've got to invest in yourself, in your mindset, in your education, sales training, sales books. Whatever it is, everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses in what they do. But again, if you're not tracking, if you're not setting intentions and goals every week, where are your shortcomings, and then where do you fill in the holes and plug the gaps to get
So,
better?
so you have a social media coach,
Yep.
and one of the things that we wanted to share is your um, uh, I guess he has an AI tool
Yeah. So
that
he created this for me.
yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So this is it is an AI tool that pulls just articles, housing and mortgage related news articles into one centralized location. So for me, I try to spend, even if it's just 10 minutes every day, reading industry news, reading industry articles. I want to be a knowledge broker for other people. So if you have a question, I want my name to be the first one that pops in your head. Like, oh, you know who I should ask? I don't care if we work together or not. If you see my content or see anything I do, I want you to think, oh, I should ask Steve. I bet he knows,
Right.
or at least can point me in the right direction. I'm not saying I'm the end all be all, but so I try to take some time every day to be up to date on what's going on. Where you just go through here. There's all kinds of different articles, and I've got other ones that even aren't pulled into here that I'm looking at. But it helps me in a couple instances. One, when I'm having my consult calls with buyers, you speak from a position of authority, right? Like I'm a subject matter expert. I'm not just doing your pre-approval. Um, when I sit down with a real estate agent that I haven't met with before, it's the same thing. You add validity to what you're doing. You're not just some schmuck showing up for a coffee appointment or whatever other junk you're trying to do. And then it also helps me with content, right? Like I want to take a lot of these things and repackage it and repurpose it for the general public and give a real life take on it. You know,
Yeah.
so like if you click on the Americans spent 603 billion on home remodeling projects, just click on that. So it'll come up and it will give you a link to the article, and it'll go through and it'll give you talking points. So it summarizes it for you, kind of goes on all that, and then if you go down even further, what it does is it gives you some ideas for short form content. But usually what I'll go do is I'll just pop in, read read the talking points on the article, go read the article and just give my take on it. Cause like we do this every day. Our potential clients and partners might not be doing this. So a lot of people will just read a headline, right?
Hmm.
And then they
Hmm.
take that for what it is. So I want to take a lot of my content is taking things like this, maybe not this article in particular, but taking it, regurgitating it in a digestible format. Like, hey, Yahoo Finance posted a thing that said XYZ. Here's what this actually means. Here's what you need to do. Here's how to take advantage. Whatever. That is much more valuable to a potential client than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. This is so cool. It gives you all the information. It gives you a little script. It gives you a little bit of an
You get a
idea of
hook.
what you might talk. Yeah, you got a hook. What you might talk about.
It's got a
Gives you the
screenshot if you
JPEG.
want to do a green screen video.
Yeah, I love it. That's super
Um,
cool.
and then for me, like the different tabs at the top are more for me. So most of my business is Ohio and Florida. So I'll educate myself even though I'm not in Florida, like on the market there. So if I'm
Stay up to
talking to
date.
an agent there, I can speak intelligently. And because inevitably, if I'm not in the market, the first question they're going to ask me is like, "Well, you're not here." What? I'm like, I bet I can speak more intelligently than a lot of market dynamics than maybe you can. Um,
Right.
so I want to bridge that gap, and then the rest of this stuff, like you've probably seen. I mean, I know you have. Like a lot of my usually once a week, I'll do a reaction video. So he set these
Mm-hmm.
other viral real estate and real estate influencer videos, and I'm actually looking. He hasn't updated or refreshed these in a while. Those ones he has to pull through manually for me.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times I'll just find an influencer or something that they're talking about, and usually the way that video will work is I'll just take like either the whole video or a 20-30 second blip on it, whatever it might be, and then just give my reaction, give a real honest reaction, because there's a lot of bad advice on the internet, believe it or not, oddly enough. um,
No kidding.
like, you get people giving advice, like it'll play the clip and then I'll pop on and be like, hey, XYZ, don't do this, do this, or I agree with it, don't agree with it. And usually I try to find stuff just on, for purpose of virality to be contrarian to. I kind of do that on
Sure.
purpose. And then like you said, or like you just clicked on Ohio, like there's a lot of local good stuff in here, with things that are going on and initiatives that people might not even know about.
It's super cool. I mean, I love it. I love the concept, and it's I'm sure
It's
it's
an
AI
easy
that,
way to
yeah,
centralize and automate educating myself in the morning on what I'm going to talk about and what I want to do, as opposed to like, okay, well, let me go to Housing Wire. Okay, let me scroll, flip through for 5 minutes. Okay, let me go over to Inman. Okay, let me scroll, flip through for 5 minutes.
it
Like, let me go
saves you a
over
ton
to
of time. Yeah,
Yahoo Finance. I'll go through here and I can read the first five in 5 minutes and be on my way. Um, so and
that's
and
super
and
cool.
if you're an agent, I can give you a login to this for free. So you can have it, you can use it as well. It doesn't cost you anything, doesn't cost me anything. I can create a login for you on the back end, and then the AI, like I say, just on the national Ohio Florida news, the AI set up where it just pulls articles in daily. Like
Yep.
I said, the viral real estate videos, real estate influencer videos, that's on there more for myself. And I usually have to remind Cyrus to pull those through on the back end or refresh them. Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
staying educated on what you're doing is super important. I kind of spoke in my newsletter this week on this, is avoiding trying to make predictions. I know I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I'll bring it home. In what you're telling your clients and people in the industry on a day-to-day basis. I think this last week was more evident than ever that nobody has any idea what anything's going to do. Um,
Absolutely. Right.
so it's important more now more than ever to be educated on what is happening right in the moment, so that you can speak intelligently in the moment for what's going to happen or what is happening for your clients, what that means to
Hmm.
them, what that means to their situation. Um, don't try to make any bold predictions about what home values are going to do, what rates are going to do, what markets are going to do. I don't think anybody really predicted rates dropping, swinging. Now it comes like it's a snake. Um, but I say all that to say that if you've got something like this in place for yourself, it just helps educate yourself, again, leading into routines that enable you to expand and grow your knowledge.
Yeah. So, I think the next topic we want to talk about is automation. Um, Automation for me personally, I'm a techie. Automation
Nerd.
is, yeah. Automation is two pieces for me. It's the tech angle. It's building systems in place that can speak to each other, talk to each other, and do work on my behalf. Um, but it's also leverage. That's the other piece of it. Leverage is something that is, do you have assistants? Do you have a clothing coordinator? Do you have a transaction coordinator, listing coordinator, social media person? How do you know, add people to your business to do work on your behalf,
Mhm.
and add to the time you can focus on building your business, doing the work of building your business, and be really focused in your helping your clients. That's the other piece is if you have somebody in the background, I have an amazing transaction coordinator. If you have somebody in the background that's answering emails for you, um, shuffling docs that on a timely basis here and there to make sure everything's executed, it takes
It's the
hours and
only way to
hours
scale.
away, hours and hours away from my day, and allows
Sure.
me to be more focused on not checking my phone or like being in a showing and be like, oh crap, I gotta get this sent out because the deadline is X and I have to go pick up my kids and I have to go do this and you know
Or just
th-
doing
all,
whatever you want to do. Like, say I want to take the
yeah,
afternoon and just go do something. Like,
yeah,
let's be real. Like,
absolutely.
you don't want to. I I work because I want to grow my business and make a good, income and provide a good living for myself and my family. But I want to enjoy that. I'm not trying to be a slave to my office 24/7. I've got that enough as it
100%.
is. Those you cannot scale without people. It is literally impossible. You've got to have people and processes in place to scale, and then that's what gives you the freedom to do what you want with your time. So if you're, say your income goal is to make, a $500,000 a year. I'll make 500K, right? Okay, well, can I make 440 and pay someone else to offload a bunch of this stuff, and I just gave myself back 10 hours a week? How valuable is that, right?
Amazing. Yeah, yeah,
I think anybody would make that trade. 10 hours a week, I got an extra 2, 3 hours a day during the work week to I just go stand outside and screw off if I want. Like that, that is what enables you to scale. I just finished Dan Martell's book called Buy Back Your Time. And one of the hurdles he talks about in people um, hiring and replacing themselves on certain tasks. One, they think they're the best at it, which in a lot of cases, business owners, there's a reason that they own and run the business. But he's got a quote in there, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. It's like 80% done by someone else is 100% effing awesome. So just because
yeah,
somebody doesn't do it exactly like you, if they can do it 80% of what you do and you just gain back, 2 hours a day for the week, that's a big win.
hundred
Um,
percent.
you got to learn to let go of a couple things and then also challenge yourself to be a better trainer and developer of that person that you're going to eventually be able to get them to do it how you do it.
Well, and I think I think another piece that uh, people are concerned about in the beginning is, especially in our business that has an ebb and a flow with the market, is hiring somebody and taking on that additional salary or whatever.
Yep.
um I think that you need to understand whether it's um automations or hiring those people. um those are what is going to allow you to be able to afford that or the next thing.
Sure.
um if you don't build that leverage into your business, you're never going to be able to take on the next client or have the best experience with the ones you have to be able to create more referrals. And holding back on all of that is what ultimately is going to keep you at status quo and not allow you to grow and
Sure.
have more time. So
You're just going to grow
um,
frustrated in your business. You put a cap on yourself.
yeah,
That eventually grows to frustration because you're like, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm doing so much, I'm working so hard, and my business is just stagnant. And
right.
eventually that will lead to frustration, which is going to inevitably turn to probably a downturn in your business of some form or fashion, because you're eventually just going to get annoyed with the fact that you're doing all these things and it's not panning out how you want it to, which then means you're probably going to start just or going to eventually stop doing some of those things, which is just going to hurt your business even more. And it's a snowball that turns into an avalanche. Um, and you've got to put people processes in place to scale, if not even your business, just your time, so that way you can be 100% for everyone as much as possible. When you're running
So
around
let's
with your head on fire all the time, now that client, if I'm doing a consult call with you, Brooks, right now, and I'm here, there, and everywhere. Now you're not getting 100% of me. You're getting 70%. And that's
So
not your fault. That's my fault.
getting into the weeds on it, I mean, you obviously have Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
You have your
A
social
processor.
media, your processor, and then you have your social media person.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I've got coaching in place. So I've got coaching, which to kind of take a step back, the cost, you need to not look at it as a cost and look at it as an investment.
mhm.
What is my ROI? I'm making an investment in my business, whatever it is, whatever I'm going to pay this person. I'm making an investment. What's my ROI on this investment? So that's first and foremost. Number two, you need to, if you're not tracking anything in your business, you'd have no idea where to plug in people. So you need to do an
Right.
analysis of where, where am I taking on water, and where do I got to plug the holes? And that's where you start. What's the lowest hanging fruit? Who can I bring in for the lowest cost to give me the highest ROI on this task? And it could be
I
something stupid. It could just be a VA to manage your emails.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as not only that, but I also look at it as what am I not good at? Um,
Good, challenge
is
yourself.
it, yeah, is well, but is there something that um, I try to learn every piece of the business. I try to learn every piece of the back end. I try to learn every system, I'm an expert in my brokerage's CRM. I could teach it to anybody. I teach it to my team. I teach it to outside agents within our brokerage, outside of our team. And to me, it's like dive in, figure it all out, understand how it works, and that way you're going to get the most out of it. Um, that uh, every system, every social media platform, every um, back end, dot loop or whatever we use for signatures. I consider myself like uh 80, 90, 100% expert in those
Sure.
systems because I don't want to be the guy that just is figuring out 5 years into using it. Oh gosh, this I could have done that could have saved me
Sure.
X number, whatever, or done
Sure.
all this stuff for me that I had no clue and I wasn't using it. Using a CRM is a bare minimum to managing your clients, but it's something that
If you don't
a
have a
lot of
CRM,
people,
you're just an
yeah,
idiot.
some people don't do it. So many
Wow.
people on my entire team, a team of 14 agents, we weren't even utilizing it for years because one, we didn't really have a good one, and now they've gotten much better. Our brokerage has an amazing one that customizes it to our the way that we operate within Cutler, but for a long time we didn't have one, and it's amazing that we were able to continue to grow our business the way we were without it, and it's gotten exponentially easier and better with it. In that system, we have automations, which are amazing. So when price changes happen on our listings, when new listings go on the market, when um, you know any of these things that change on a regular basis with marketing, we like when we get a new listing, we get an email that has the brochure built already based on the description and everything built. It's just a PDF we can download. It's with a template. It puts all
Mm-hmm.
the pictures. We can renegotiate the pictures if we want to, but it custom makes it. It gives us the templates for social media for coming soon or for a new listing or whatever. It does it all automatically, and just sends us an email. Here it is. Boom, just if
Sure.
we upload something into MLS. Um, I also have a listing coordinator that uploads all the listing information in MLS for me. I have a runner who's running stuff, and the listing coordinator manages the tasks of the runner, um, so that I don't have to manage the runner.
Sure.
I don't have to give him the tasks to go run around. She says, "Okay, Brooks has a new listing. Here, put up the sign. Brooks, where do you want the lockbox to go?" Um, and then Greg, you take this and go here. And then I have a transaction coordinator that, like I said earlier, is managing all the signatures, organizing my dot loop so that all the forms that I don't need are gone out of the
Yep.
out of my folder, and everything that is that needs to be there is fully executed or categorized or sent to the people that need to execute them, whether it's the other agent, the co-op agent, the title company, whatever. She has automated systems that sends the intros, the follow-ups, the post-closing, asks for the reviews on my behalf, and all these systems that just are 1,000 things that I would have done through the transaction that I don't have to even think about. And I can focus on my communication with them, working through inspections, um, answering the tough questions that they have, and move on when I'm not managing that piece to other clients and getting more clients and doing other parts of my business. So, um, that's where leverage comes in a big way. I also use some online tools. Like I said, Notion. I'm going to show you how I use Notion, but I also it communicates with Zapier. I use if this then that, um, and other sort of simple things that um, if I post to Facebook, or if I post a reel to Facebook, it automatically goes to my or sorry, Instagram. If it goes from my Instagram to my Facebook to my LinkedIn, without me having to go and post it in 3 different places at once. I'm going to show you. So here's my Notion, and uh, basically you have on the left hand side you have all these different sort of pages, and they could be public facing or mostly private, to help organize my business, keep data, um, and keep my entire back end of my business really well organized. I have my daily dashboard, where I can put tasks. I have my calendar. I have my daily. I have my weekly calendar up there. I can put any tasks that I need to do. It has automated reminders, things that I don't have checked in certain boxes in a master database automatically fill to this. I have clients and then AI descriptions based on their database, what information I need to know about them or things that I need to do. Or, if I just search in Notion X client, it'll give me the rundown of what they're looking for, what their price point is. Are they pre-qualified? Are they in contract? And I can go and I can say, okay, who are my leads? Who do I need to get signed docs from? It funnels all that automatically off of just one database, which is just extraordinary. I have price ranges. If somebody says, okay, well, I have something coming up in this price range, I can just highlight a price range and click on it, and it tells me who I have in that range. I can search by area. I can set up all these things to keep me organized. I have a master database, and it has just price ranges, likes and dislikes, the lender they worked with, their partner's email. I have buttons where I can send automated emails with the buyer consultation follow up, with here's the next steps after you sign the buyer consultation agreement, with notes that I kept. I can email to somebody else. In contract, once they go into contract, I can send this, and it sends the inspectors list. It autofills when the dates in the timeline are and what the next steps are. If it's in my CRM, I use Delta CRM, but if it's not in my CRM, I can just do this. If this is not clicked, it adds it to my task list for every day. I have where they are in the process. I can know what's being pre-marketed, what's on the market. I can organize where my listing appointment CMA is. I have it all in one place, so I can resend it at any point I need. And I have all my commissions, the price points, and those all feed into tracking production, what lenders I work with. Here's an example. I have all the clients that I have worked with in here. Steve Beskid,
Oh, that guy.
31% of 31% of the clients I've worked with so far have worked with Steve Beskid. This 9 number is people that are not pre-qualified yet. So obviously that number can grow, but if I were to eliminate and filter out people that weren't working with an agent, obviously this would be a huge
Yeah,
percentage. You'd be a huge percentage of my business, but I can look back historically and say, okay, well, Steve worked with this amount of my business every year, and it's all feeding off of one master database, and all these files are talking to each other and giving me information and tracking my business in real time without me having to do a million different tasks.
sure.
All this is entered off of one client intake form, and then it just asks me questions and leads me into different zones, um, different tasks, so that it continues to feed that database. It's really an amazing product, and that's something that I'm working on this year to help um, organize my business, to take notes in there and have all the notes in one place, be able to read off team meeting notes, client notes. If I go to an event, it's all fed in there, and
Yeah.
all can be categorized based on what type of event it was, what the date was, and I can search them all and find them really easily. Um, and then I can make front-facing websites off of that. So link in bio pages, what are the next step pages, whatever. It's a really amazing thing, and the mix of note taking, database, and automation is something that I'm going to build out and ultimately work on selling to other people as well.
It's awesome, dude. You showed me this the other day. It's pretty sick. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Just the again the automation. You've got the process and the routine, and the automation just feeds the system, and then you've got an ecosystem. Um, you know, for me, I'm really big on just frameworks. We got frameworks for everything. You're really just scripting your business, and
yeah,
it's invaluable. It's invaluable. Um, so many problems we all face and deal with are self-inflicted, and usually it's just a lack of organization, lack of processes, frameworks, routines. You know, um, I had this conversation with a new agent the other day, and I'm like, look, I theme every day. Mondays I shoot all my real estate videos. Tuesdays I do all my updates. Wednesday I do all my realtor outboundings. Fridays database calls, or Thursdays database calls. Friday is usually whatever I missed on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not Tuesday, I don't miss Tuesday, but usually Wednesday, Thursday, whatever I might have been light on or had something come up, I'm plugging it in Friday and adding, again, re-reviewing my intentions I said at the beginning of the week, and then okay, where am I short, where I got to make up some time. And that over time just compounds and compounds and compounds. And people are looking for this big event to happen in their business where deals are going to just start flowing and running in. And that just um, it doesn't exist. Growth is in the mundane, monotonous daily tasks and just doing them over and over and over and over again.
it's a brick
And just being
wall. It's building a brick wall.
It's all it is. It's not challenging. That's not to say it's easy. It's hard, but it's also very simple. You just got to do the effort, or make the effort to
Mhm.
do the tasks. And generally speaking, the results will follow. I've never met somebody who's like, you know what, I do these things on Mondays, these things on Tuesdays, these things on Wednesdays, these things on Thursdays. I just don't get any business, right? Like, have you ever met anyone that's like, I'm doing all this stuff and I just get nothing? It
No,
just
no,
doesn't. Nobody.
no, nobody.
So there's not. If you're looking for a secret recipe, that is the secret recipe. It's just a lot of work, and you just got to do it,
Yep.
and not be lazy, not be entitled, and feel like just because you possess whatever skill that deals are supposed to just come to you, they don't. Um, you know, Buckle in, do the tasks, the results come.
I got to run.
It was good
Thank
stuff,
you.
man.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and thanks for listening to another episode of Game Plans. Like and subscribe in our YouTube channel. Thanks for checking us out. Talk to you soon, Steve.
I'll talk to you, buddy.
Peace.